Hello there. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I'm Ryan in Singapore. Welcome to the Mindfulness Daily Practice. We've been doing a series on neuroscience. So, how does mindfulness affect the brain? And I've gone through several different sets of topics. Today's topic is about autopilot. So we talked about it a little bit briefly on the day about the introduction to neuroscience. What's autopilot anyway, and what's the implication about how does autopilot affect our daily lives? Well, autopilot, essentially, it's just kind of a term that's coined by. I guess I use it from Search Inside Yourself, like the emotional intelligence program, the mindfulness-based emotional intelligence program designed and tested at Google. The kind of the idea about cultivating emotional intelligence is for us to have emotional intelligence, we need to get off of our autopilot and start to be more aware of what we're doing. So a lot of times what we do is simply going through the already created algorithms and subroutines that are going on inside of our brains. And that you'll find that you don't always think about what you're doing, that things just happen automatically. And, maybe the easiest way to explain this is something physical. So, walking. All of us walk a lot. It's something that is automatic. You don't have to think as you're walking. Left foot, okay, pick up my left foot, move my left foot forward, place my left foot down, pick up my right foot. Right, this kind of commentary isn't going on, and not that this is exactly how non-autopilot tasks work, but this isn't how we walk. Walking is just, okay, I want to go over there, and your body just kind of does it for you. You can make it from one place to the other without really paying attention. And similar to like riding a bicycle, driving a car. Once you've figured out how to do these things, you don't have to think about them anymore, because there's already some kind of, we talked a few days ago about neuroplasticity. So the circuitry in here gets created, and once the circuitry is there, you no longer have to focus so much on doing something to be able to do it. And interestingly, a few weeks ago we did mindful movement and talked about and practiced some mindful walking. You can see in walking meditation, it really is more about, not that we're having that inner commentary, but can you really pay attention to what is going on inside the body as you're walking? And so this is kind of just a little glimpse of coming off of autopilot. So to become aware of what's happening in each and every moment, and and be present. I think something that maybe these physical examples are examples that we maybe can understand and relate to quite well. Ones that are a little bit harder perhaps are ones that you can't see with your eyes. So what's your autopilot behavior when your kid spills his milk? Right. When this happens, is there an immediate reaction? Right. And so this kind of goes back to that Viktor Frankl quote: between stimulus and response, there's a space. And in that space is our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and our freedom. So between stimulus and response, there's a space. And so you have some choice in that space between stimulus and response. However, most of the time, a lot of the time, that space between stimulus and response is really, really close. And so as it's close, you just go through your autopilot behavior. And so your kid spills his milk, you start shouting at him, or someone familiar comes into the room, and you're used to a particular type of interaction, and so your brain is already prepared for that kind of interaction. What are the characteristics of being on autopilot? So we're distracted, we're less aware, We are, and there's a lot of mind wandering that goes on because we're going through those subroutines. So it's just happening. It's like you hit play on the videotape and it just goes. And while you're doing it, you can find that you don't have to be so focused, that you can really start thinking about other things. And one of my favorite examples of autopilot is going to work. So what's your commute to work like? Do you remember your commute to work? What do you remember about it? Did you take the bus? Maybe this is it. Your normal commute to work is you take the bus. Did you remember any of the faces of the strangers on the bus? When you would drive to work, did you remember any of the colors of the cars, the car makes? Did you see any other people? These are kind of little notes to realize that you're in autopilot. Do you even remember what you thought about during that time, where the mind is completely wandering the entire time? And so this is really kind of characteristic of autopilot, and this is one of the real symptoms of autopilot, is that you're constantly going through some mind wandering. So as we're in autopilot behaviors, this space between stimulus and response is extremely close, and without awareness of it, awareness of being in that state, making a change inside of our autopilot behaviors is really challenging. And so this kind of goes back to, is it possible for us to change? Neuroplasticity shows that even past the age of 25, your brain and the hardware inside of your brain is changeable. It's possible for you, through what you're thinking, what you're doing, and what you're paying attention to change the brain. And furthermore, if you don't intentionally change the brain, it will change over time. As the more you run those subroutines, the stronger they become, the harder they are to break out of. I think that's something we were chatting about. Like Dirk had asked a question about aging. And, yes, of course, aging has some physical effect on the brain itself, but, furthermore, one of the things that makes it so challenging to change as we get older is that we've just run those subroutines thousands, hundreds of thousands of times. And so that constant cycle makes it stronger and makes it that much more challenging to break out of. So through mindfulness, we can start to become aware in the present. As we're aware in the present, we can start to have those moments where we see what's going on. And so that's why we practice. We practice mindfulness so that we can start to become more aware in the present moment. The only way to get off autopilot is that first step. Realize that you're on autopilot. If you can't realize that you're on autopilot, you'll never actually be able to take yourself off of it. And one way to really notice when that happens is, symptoms of autopilot are being distracted, less aware. Our minds are in the past or in the future. They're not here in the present. So one way to really start pulling ourselves off of autopilot, and become more aware is to be mindful, to pay attention on purpose in the present moment, non-judgmentally, and start to see as things happen, as stimulus and response are right next to each other, can we, through our mindfulness, being aware, start to have a little bit more decision and control of our lives. So, welcome everybody. We will. I'll get into anything happening in the chat. I'll get into after the meditation, but mindfulness is the key to unlocking this autopilot mode. So how can we be more mindful? Practice mindfulness. So how can you practice mindfulness? Through a process called meditation. So meditation is nothing mystical or magical. It's simply practicing paying attention in the present. So go ahead and get yourself comfortable. So choose a posture that can allow you to be sitting upright, but be relaxed. So here in this posture, my knees are slightly lower than my hips, so I get this natural curvature in my lumbar spine so that I can sit here without any effort. So I'm locked here and can stay still. So choose a posture that can allow for this. If you're sitting on a chair, I'd encourage you to bring your back away from the backrest. Maybe place your feet flat against the floor. If you like, you can allow your eyes to close, or if you'd rather not, you can have a soft gaze about 45 degrees downwards. So arrive here in your posture in stillness. So any movements that you want to make, go ahead and make them now. Maybe stretch out your shoulders before we come into our still posture. So in preparation for our meditation today, let's take 3 deep breaths together. So after your next exhale, so exhale all the air out of your lungs and then begin inhaling. 3, 4, 5, exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. And now return to normal breathing. So become aware of breathing. What does it feel like to be breathing? How do you know that you're breathing? There must be some physical symptom, some sign, some feedback coming in the present moment. Letting you know, am I breathing in or am I breathing out? And you can notice that it's not any one tiny particular moment. It's that you can feel moment by moment the body changing. The body is slightly expanding over time. The body is slightly contracting over time. The skin of the abdominal wall is stretching, or the skin of the abdominal wall is contracting. I can feel my t-shirt sliding slightly downwards on my belly as I'm breathing in. And then in the opposite direction as I breathe out. These little tiny subtle sensations on the skin. So it's not static, it's dynamic. Constant changes in the body. So see if you can take all of your awareness, focus it entirely on observing these little details. Now, where is your mind? You're still focused on those little tiny details, the observation of breathing, or are you somewhere else? If you've found that you've wandered away, gone back to your default autopilot state, see if you can let go gently of whatever it is that's distracted you and come back to these tiny details, this ever-changing body, physical symptoms of the breath. And then you found yourself wandering again. So gently, once again, coming back. Doesn't matter if you come back 100 times, 1,000 times within these 15 minutes. Just remembering each time you find yourself away from the breath, away from the present, coming back, again, observing physical sensations in the present. As we cultivate a new default mode for the mind. Being present, here and now. All right, well done. Time for us to draw our practice to its close. So ring the bell 3 times. And after the sound of the bell subsides, feel free to move your body and stretch out in any way you like. All right. Thanks everybody for practicing. How'd it go today? What did you notice in your meditation today? And I'll look through the chat. What's Frank doing? He's talking to somebody. I just can't believe it, but somebody else is up here at 5:36 a.m. So Frank's chatting with another family member. I know. And I know he doesn't even show up on camera. I know, how rude. Yeah, Sarah says, my social anxiety is so extreme that my body can freeze up and I won't know how to move in the moment. So this is something that needs to be, or that can be worked on over time. So as to, of course, you get to a certain point. You get to a certain point where new movement's no longer possible. And so, the mindfulness of dealing with something like that is start to recognize, to start to, being aware in the moment, starting to see each moment before it becomes debilitating. And this is true for any kind of anxiety as well. So it doesn't mean, being mindful doesn't mean anxiety attacks end, at least not immediately. And the question is, can you roll out the red carpet for this event to happen, right? And I think that's really challenging for a lot of us to go, okay, I can feel the anxiety attack about to happen. It's about to happen. So, what can I do? And so instead of trying to do something, trying to change how things are, can you instead just be observant of the stages? See what happens as you precede, as the event is preceded, as we begin working up to, and then being in the event. Like, can you see yourself frozen? And and what's this like? So it's just using this kind of objective awareness to observe what's happening in the moment. And the more that you get practiced at observing that, whatever state it is you're going through, doesn't have to be anxiety, the more you can understand, and the more you can potentially in the future take action and start to have something different happen. So start to be more aware of before things get out of control. So thanks for sharing. Caesar shares, distracted but kept on trying. Thanks for sharing. And it is challenging. It is really distracting. Jenny shares, I discovered that I am quite involved in my thought before I realize it has taken me away. So, anybody else? Does that sound familiar at all? It sounds very familiar to me. I'm quite aware that my thoughts get pretty out of control before I'm able to notice that my thoughts have been gone, and for me to be able to bring my mind back. So thanks, Jenny, for sharing. Keep practicing. That's right. Keep practicing in everything. Keep practicing observation, and meditation really helps in this present moment awareness, so that when we are out in our daily lives, and I want to do a bit more. I mean, we did cold showers, we did touch points last week, and would like to bring more pieces of using mindfulness in daily life as practice for us. So this will be more of that upcoming in the future. Barbara says, I had a lot of bodily sensation distractions today. Cool temperatures, smells from the kitchen, airplanes overhead noise tickled down my back. Thanks for sharing, Barbara. So, your distractions don't have to be just here. There are lots of other things that can distract us and bring us away from the breath. And this is all part of the process, is noticing it. So, thanks everybody for joining today on Autopilot. Tomorrow's talk is about the default mode network. So looking forward to sharing a little bit about that with you. CC shares, previewing errands I have to run in advance. So feeling annoyed in advance. Thanks for sharing. And so this is, rehearsing is a common thing as well. Like, what am I going to say next? What am I going to do next? And then also feeling the anticipatory stress that is involved with that. So, all right. Just a little announcement is that I'm moving to my new apartment next week. So I'll probably have a few days. I'm thinking Thursday and Friday I probably won't be available to lead this practice. So hopefully I think we'll have some recordings during that time. I think hopefully Jean will be so kind to help arrange those for us. So yeah, and it is Thursday morning over here. Thanks for noticing. And the recordings are available. Yeah, you probably know where the recordings are by now. So there are recordings of this daily practice. You can check them out. Thank you. Thanks, Gene. Thanks so much. So looking forward to moving, but as you know, moving can be a little stressful. So hopefully we'll get all that taken care of. Thanks, Nadine. Thanks, Gene. Thanks everybody for being here. Let's send some well wishes out. May I be happy and peaceful. May all of you watching, listening, wherever you are, I wish you all happiness and peace. May all sentient life across the universe, here on planet Earth, be happy and peaceful. All right. Thanks for joining. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.